and see you there. Today we'll be making this neat little Pomodoro timer in 30 minutes. I don't know how long this video is, but it's a perfect beginner project. Let's see what I can do. So we have a break time of 1 second. We can play, rewind, or fast forward into work time. And you can see that neat little background change. Very nice. If you want to learn how to make this, then let's go. The first thing, when starting a new React project, let's go to the React documentation and go to this page, build a React app from scratch. Over here, we can install a build tool. We can use Vite, Parcel, or RS Build. Choose what you like. We'll use Vite. It's fast, modern, and the dev environment is very fast to set up. So what you do is just copy this into the terminal, paste it here, and change my app into whatever you want to name your project. Then you have to cd Pomodoro, npm install the dependencies. And after a little bit of wait, we can now run the dev environment with npm run dev. See how fast that was? Wasn't even a second. If we go here onto this website, then you can see this is what we start with. If you look at the Explorer, you can see the files that are generated for us. What's interesting to us is the app CSS, app.jsx, index CSS, and main.jsx to a lesser degree. We'll be working on app.jsx and CSS more often, and we'll be making new files as development goes further. Closing the terminal there, you can see this app page directly corresponds to whatever you see on this page. For example, edit source / app.jsx and save to test HMR. So you can see this edit source is right here. What is HMR? It is hot module replacement. What that does is if you edit something here, let's say we just put 1, 2, 3 next to edits, save it, you'll see it pop up right away on the development environment. Very handy. In our case, we want to remove everything and just return null. We're going to remove the unused imports React logo and Vite logo and use state as well. Over in app CSS, we can remove everything here. This is because this was the CSS file for whatever's in the JSX file. In this project, we'll be adding 2 new dependencies. First one is React icons. We'll use this for the play button, the pause button, the rewind button, and the fast forward button. The next one is React circular progress bar. This will be the main graphic. You can see here the progress bar is filling up gradually. This is what we'll be using for the main graphics of the timer. Okay, so to install these, let's open up the terminal again. It'll be in this menu, new terminal. If your window has space, it should appear into view. If not, it'll be under this menu here. To add these dependencies, all you need to do is do npm I and copy this. Okay, to install React icons, basically the same thing. Just do npm I React icons. Let's clear the terminal. Cool. So now if you go to package.json, we can see we have React circular progress bar and React icons right here. Perfect. You might have noticed up here it says Vite plus React. If you want to change it, go to index.html and replace the title. You can change this icon up here if you provide your own icon. So this icon here, href vite.svg. If we open the public folder, it'll be right here. You want to change this into something else and change the name of the href to whatever your icon will be. Let's get started with the app.jsx. Here we're just going to return Pomodoro. We're going to make a new component and it'll be called Pomodoro. We'll just return it in the app component. We'll create a components folder and inside it will be the Pomodoro file. Let's create an empty component for now. So now if you go back to app.jsx, this should auto import for us. Let's close that file and go into pomodoro.jsx. This will be what we'll be working with. Let's play around with the circular progress bar. Now you can see there's no autocomplete for this. What it'll do is let's make a new file, jsconfig.json. And we'll have this in it. Now, if you type this, it should have circular progress bar from React circular progress bar. Or you could use this one with children. We're going to be using this one because our progress bar has things inside it, which is what the with children means. So that is what we'll be using. Cool, so our children will be inside here. So let's say H1 or H2, Pomodoro timer. Now you can see it's off the page here. Another thing you need to import is this CSS style. So when you do that, this will pop up. Okay, so that fixes it. It's in the page now, and our Pomodoro timer label or heading is inside the progress bar. This is what we want. Let's play around with the prompts. It takes in a value, which could be a value between 0 and 100. So for example, 0, and you can see that the blue is no longer visible. If you go 100, you can see that it filled up all the way and the gray isn't there anymore, only the blue. This means that it's fully completed, so 0 to 100. Let's put it as 50 for now, so you can see half the gray and half the blue. The other prop we'll be playing around with is style. You can insert an object in here with the different styles. The package includes build styles function. And inside the build styles, it takes in a rotation, stroke line cap, and so on and so forth. Everything in here can be seen in the documentation. So for example, styles here, the rotation is between 0 and 1. And let's say this is 0.25, right? Let's try that out. We need to import this and it takes in a object. Rotation is 0.25 and you can see it's over here now. It starts here. So if we do 0.5, it starts here and goes this way. So the default value is 0. We don't need that one. So remember our example had a reddish background and this is black right now. Let's change that into, let's say, green for now. So the example before had a red or a green background. So red, that stands for the work time and green stands for the break time. So let's start with break for now and we'll be able to change that later on. So let's make the background green. Give it a class name of background and background break. And let's give the progress bar a container Pomodoro. Let's change our heading to break time and give it a class name, timer label. Let's now go over to the app.css. Let's first work on the background class. Let's put the Pomodoro timer in the center. Now let's change the color. Let's define some CSS variables because we'll be reusing them quite a lot in our CSS file. So apply this to the root. We'll be defining our color palette here. So the work time color palette and the break time color palette as well. We need a primary color, we need a background color, and we need a button hover color too. These are the colors for the work background. We'll also do the same thing for the break colors, but with different colors. Obviously this one is red and the other one will be green. Now let's apply this to our background. So remember we are using background break at the moment. We'll be providing a way to change that to background work whenever it's appropriate. But right now we'll just have it hard coded in there as background break. To use the CSS variable, just type it in. Background color, break background, and it will automatically insert this var here. You could see it changed now. Let's also do the same thing for background work. Now if I change the class name from background break to background work, we can see the new background color. This is for work time. Let's just go back to green because it's very peaceful. Now let's change this blue into something that matches. So over to our build styles here, we can do path color. We'll be using our break primary here. You can see it's now green. Let's change the gray to be a little bit lighter. You can change that with trail color. Perfect. Let's go back into our CSS file. Remember, break time, we can't really see it that well anymore because it's blending into the background. Let's change it to be more gray or dark gray. Good. Remember we had a container Pomodoro. Let's edit it. Let's change the background color to be white so we can easily see the label here. We can make this circular by specifying a border radius of 50%. Let's change the dimensions of it. Let's add a box shadow to lift it from the background. So our box shadow's offset is 0 pixels horizontal, 4 pixels to the bottom, so you can see it here. And the blur effect is 6 pixels. The blur itself will have the colors black, so RGB000, and it'll be 10% opacity. Let's go back to pomodoro.jsx. Let's define a Boolean state is break. This will determine if it's break time, so green, or if it's work time, red. So is break is true if it's break time, green, or false if it's work time, red. And default value is false. Now let's find a way to make this background break change if it's break time or work time. And also we want this to be changed and also this too. Here we have a theme variable. Now wherever it says break, we can change that into the theme variable. For this class name, we can use a template string. First, you encase it with curly brackets, meaning we'll be using JavaScript. Then you use tilde, then remove the double quotes. And wherever you want to insert the theme variable, insert it with $sign and curly brackets. So now isBreak is false. So this is work. So now background work is the active class name. Do this for this one. For this one, we're going to change the whole thing, insert JavaScript. This time we're going to be using a ternary statement. What this is saying, if it's break, then break, otherwise work. And we add in timer here. This will show either way. So now it's work timer. So this is perfect. Is break is false. So this is the work background, the work primary color, and the work timer label. So let's say it's true. Then this is the break color, background, and the primary color and the title. Let's keep it as false. The next thing we need is a display for how much time is left. So let's use state again. So what value would we use for the initial state? We could do a constant here for, let's say, 25 minutes. 25 times 60. So this will be in seconds. And we plug it in here. So this is our initial state. Now, if a variable is constant, like it never changes to props or anything, so 25 times 60 never changes, we can just lift it outside of the component. Let's make a timer label component. Call it timer display actually. Timer display will take in the time left and the theme. Time left is in seconds, so we need that in minutes and seconds. So what's happening here? Let's say time left is 72 seconds left. So minutes, that would be 1, right? Time left, 72 divided by 60, that's 1 point something. Floor, math floor would round it down, so 1. For seconds, 72 divided by 60 is 1, remainder 12. So this is the remainder, 12 seconds. Let's make a container. We're going to be using our theme here. So we'll be using a template string. So I'll be using theme and also a common class name too. So this timer display doesn't change, but this theme can change. Let's display our minutes and seconds. And now back to pomodoro.jsx. Let's actually display our components. Remember, we are passing in time left and theme. So what happened? If you could see here, there's some text you can highlight. 25:0. We got something here, but we need to be able to see it. So let's edit the CSS. Let's use font size of 4 rem. So this is dependent on your browser font size. This is by default 16. So 4 times 16, 64 will be the font size. Make it bold. And finally, change the color. We can see it now, 25 minutes and 0 seconds. Now this looks a little bit weird. We need to pad it out so that this would be 0, 0. And we also need to pad out the minutes. So let's say this was, 5 minutes. Reload this. That looks very strange. It needs to be 0, 5, 0, 0. So to do that, we can use the pad string method. Convert it into a string. Pad starts 2 and pad it with 0. Do the same thing for seconds. This will do that correctly. Next thing we need are the control buttons. Play, pause, rewind, and fast forward. So let's make a component. Control buttons. Again, I like to make an empty component and we can export it and import it on Pomodoro. Import it after the timer display. There's going to be 3 buttons. So let's return a container and the 3 buttons. This is where we'll be using React icons. So we'll be importing FA play, FA pause, FA undo, FA forward. You can see the empty buttons here. Let's fill it up. You might be wondering there's 3 buttons, but there's 4 icons here. We'll be changing the play into the pause button when we click it. We'll figure that out later. But right now it looks a bit weird, huh? Let's change the styles. First, let's put in class names for the buttons. Since there's 3 of these, let's consolidate that into 1 variable. And replace these. Control D to select more than 1. We want these buttons to change depending on if it's work time or break time. So let's pass in the theme as well. We want the play button to be a little bit different to the rewind and the fast forward. Let's change the styles. Let's change the container and add a gap in between the buttons. Now let's change the buttons so they're more rounded. Right now they have a blue border when you hover over them. Let's change that to be none. Now let's change the color. Let's make the play pause button a little bit bigger. Now the color isn't applying yet, still black, because we haven't passed in the theme yet. Okay, looks good, right? Let's add some functionality to the buttons. So first off, we need to know if it's playing or not. So let's use state here. Let's use false as the default value. And let's change that if we click on the play button. Let's create a handle play function, which will set is playing to whatever it is, but opposite. So what happens is it takes this value, so it's false right now, and it sets it to the opposite. So false, then it'll become true. Now let's handle the reset button. When we click on the reset button, then we will pause the timer. So is playing will become false. When we click on the resets, we want it to go back to the original time. We want it to go back to 25 minutes. But for break time, it might use, let's say 5 minutes. Then it'll be back to 5 minutes. So we want the time left to be either work time or break time. That will depend on the isBreak variable. If it's break, then we reset it to break time. Otherwise, we reset it to work time. Now let's make a function for the skip button. Let's say there's 1 minute left on the timer. What the fast forward or skip button does is let's just go to the next state. So what happens, we have 1 minute of work time left. Let's just go break time. So it's no longer playing. Then we change the time left. If it's a break, then we change it to the work time because it's the next state, right? So if it's break time, then we fast forward to work time. And finally, if it's break, it's no longer break. Hopefully I explained that well. Maybe you can look at it this way. So set is break. We want it to change to the next state. So if it's break right now, we want to change it to work and set time left. If it's currently break time, we're going into work time. So it'll be work time. Otherwise, then we're going into break time. Okay, let's pass all of these functions to the control button's component and let's consume it. And let's plug it into these buttons. Okay, now let's use the isPlaying variable to determine whether this is play or pause. And now let's use it here. If it's playing currently, we want the pause button to show up. Otherwise, we want the play button. Awesome, let's test it out. So it's not currently playing. Okay, well, we haven't done anything to the timer, but it is currently playing. So it's not playing at the moment, and now it's playing, so it's showing the pause button. If you reset, it doesn't do anything because we can't really see it. The timer isn't updating, and the fast forward button, this will change to break time because it's work time currently, so it'll become break time. Click it again, become work time. These color changes are very instant, but we need a transition so it kind of eases that transition. So the background, let's add in a transition of the background color for 0.5 seconds, and let's ease into it. Now the timer display, we're changing the color. And finally, the control buttons too. Okay, let's test it out. Awesome. It's slowly transitioning. Perfect. As you notice, there's a black border still around the button when you click it. So we want to remove that. In the index.css, you can see there's some styling done to the buttons already. So this is Vite style. Let's remove everything except for cursor pointer. There we go. Perfect. What cursor pointer does is it makes our cursor into the pointer cursor. Maybe I can comment it out. And if we hover, it doesn't really look like we can click it anymore. So we need to keep that. Okay, remember we have the work button hover and break button hover colors here. So when we hover over a button, it should show that color. So let's do that right now. Okay, there we go. Looks a lot better. Maybe it looks a little bit cramped. So let's just up the size just a teeny bit. be 500. And let's add a margin in between the timer label and the buttons. 1 rem. Yeah, that looks better. Now let's actually do the functionality for the timer counting down. Here we'll be using a use effect imported from React. So use effect will take in 2 arguments. One is the effect and the other is the deps, which is dependencies. It'll take in an effect. So this is a empty function. Just do like console log something, I don't know. So what happens here is every time this renders, then it will console log. So if I inspect it, go into the console tab, you can see time left is 1500. And if I click on this button, it's going to change it because it re-rendered. So 300 seconds, so 5 minutes. It's going to keep doing that effect. Now, if we pass in an array of dependencies, then it'll change only if those dependencies change. So if we have an empty array, it won't change at all. So it's 1500. And if we click on it again, it's not rendering that 300 anymore, right? It's because it's run the effect and no dependencies there. So just run it once and never again. So here we'll be using a interval. So let interval. We'll be using the set interval JS function. And that interval will decrease the time left by 1 second every second. So that's how the timer will go down. Use the set time left function to modify the time left, take in the previous time, and decrease it by 1. And we want to run this every 1000 milliseconds, which is every 1 second. We only want this interval if it's playing and time left is above 0. Because when it's 0, we want it to stop. What happens if the time left is 0? Well, that means, let's say 5 minutes, right? If it becomes 0, then break time is over, it's work time. And we need to set some of the states here. So is break will become false, time left will become the work time, 25 minutes, and is playing becomes false. And we want to clean up this interval because every time this effect plays and it's playing and time left is above 0, it'll make a new interval and it's just going to keep going. It's going to keep creating these intervals and we want to be able to clear them. So this is what the use effect return statement will give you. It's a cleanup function. We'll see what happens when we don't clear the interval. Okay. So we have this empty dependency array. You can see a warning pops up here. So yellow is a warning. Use effect has missing dependencies. Is break is playing and time left. Of course, if is playing changes, we want this effect to run. If time left changes, we want this effect to run. So we want to add these dependencies in there. Usually you want to follow this guideline here. So we add is break, is playing, and time left into this array. And let's test it out. So play. And there we go. It's working. Working as intended. Let's see what happens if we don't clear the interval. So what happens here? There will be so many intervals created. So it will keep decreasing the time left faster and faster as more intervals are created. So let's just try it out. To play it, it's working okay. Oh, it's decreasing by so many. So you could see every time, every second, it's decreasing by an even greater amount. So it's just going crazy at the moment. So that's why we need to clear the interval at the end here. So to make sure there's only one interval running at a time. Okay, so the timer works. Now let's actually change this trail here. So we want to change the progress on that progress bar. So we change this value between 0 to 100. So let's create a function, calculate progress, and we'll call it there. So let's make a calculate progress function. This will take in the total time, which is dependent on if it's a break or work time, and use a simple formula to get the remaining time in a percentage. Okay, so let's just demonstrate this, but with like a shorter time, so we don't have to wait 25 minutes. We load the page. Okay, there we go. You can see it's slowly getting there. Okay, there's a bug. Now it should be 5 minutes break time, but there's a bug here. So where is that bug happening? It is probably in here, time left equals 0. So what happened there? Why is it still work time, which is 10 seconds? So the current value, or the old value, is break, is false, because we were in work time right there. And we are setting the new value to is break is equal to true. But why isn't the new value is break equal true? Why is it not being used here? It should be break time, which is 5 minutes, but it's using work time, which is 10 seconds. Well, it's because React set state is asynchronous. So this isn't true yet. It's still using the old value. So it's not good to rely on the new value of isBreak. We're just going to rely on the old value. So we'll just do a switcheroo here. Remove the comments. And let's try it out. Again, work time is 10 seconds. So we'll just wait until 10 seconds is finished, or just skip it. And there we go. It's now 5 minutes. Okay, so the upshot there is React set state is asynchronous. So if you're changing the value here and using it in the next set state, don't trust that value, use the old value. Change the break time to 5 seconds, very short break time, and let's just play. Perfect, it's working okay. Now, it's work time. But what if the users what if they have this window minimized and they don't know it's work time again? We need to play a notification sound in order to let the user know that, hey, no longer break time, buddy. So we can do that by inserting something here. So time left equals 0. We want to play notification sound. Let's make a function here. Define it out here. Here we want to play audio. We want to play audio. So this is JavaScript stuff. And this is the file name. So let's just call it notification.mp3. And we want it to play. We don't have the notification sound yet. Let's add something. Okay, so this will point to the public folder and notification. So let's find that and let's play our notification. Actually, just let the timer play it for us. Let's just put it down to 2 seconds. And there it is, guys. So you guys made a Pomodoro timer in, I don't know how long this video is, under that number of minutes. That's crazy. Anyway, if you guys want to extend this out, maybe you can create a notification sound for break time and work time. So it's pretty simple. I'll give you a hint. You just need to pass in isBreak to this notification sound and then play a different sound. So right now, it just plays one sound for both break time and work time. So that's one extension. Another extension could be, you see how we're manually editing the work time and break time? Maybe we have a settings page where you can click it and you can edit the time there. Another thing is maybe you can personalize the page. So maybe this red isn't really pleasing to look at. Maybe it's like make it orange or yellow or purple or anything you want. Should be able to change that. Okay, so those are the extensions. Good luck guys and have fun with this. If you guys want any future videos, any future project suggestions, leave it down in the comments. I will see you later. Goodbye.